Okay, here's our hot take. You don't need a CFO. You need to read your damn reports. If you're hiring strategy before you get a grip on your day-to-day cash, you're just lighting your money on fire. In this episode, we're walking through what support you actually need at every stage of business and how to build a financial system that grows with you, not over you. Okay, so this is episode 8 of the Unfiltered Profit podcast. Caitlynn and I are here to dive into why you don't need a CFO just yet in your business. And I like this conversation because we both started off focusing on providing fractional CFO services to clients. And in our current season of our business, it's not that we don't still do that for some of our clients, but that's not where we're focused, because we have seen our industry take this hard turn towards like, well, you have to provide fractional CFO. And a lot of clients just aren't in a place where they need to be paying for those services, especially not at the rates that we accountants are being told to charge for those services. And it's creating this giant gap in the market of people willing to do the bookkeeping, the compliance, and just give some high quality reports to clients so that they can make some clear business decisions. So it's exciting to dive into this because you and I have both been in that space of being those fractional CFOs. And now we're trying to tell people like, no, stop hiring.
Yeah, it was interesting. It became for sure in our industry like the thing to do, kind of like when all the business coaches came out in super popularity during, I'd say for sure, the COVID times. Like this just became the title to hold. I don't know about you, but coming from Union Pacific with a CFO, I was like, but how? Like it took me a while, one, to figure out how to do it. Two, I think to claim the title and then to still adjust the services. And I think there was still a period where I was like, but it's not really.
Yes.
Unless you're in the company, because there is so much that as a fractional person we don't have access to and we don't have the ability to do. And in order to have the ability to do that as a fractional person, the goal is like not to pay the $250,000 salary like a true in-house CFO would charge, but you still need to pay $125,000 like in order to really have someone doing that work and have that access. So I don't know. It was an interesting time. And what I'd say is it's really a high-level advisory assistance in making decisions and providing some additional reporting and less of like, honestly, like I said, what I would consider at UP, what a CFO was doing, which was so much work on the financial. And I mean, you're talking about a job that was 60 plus hours a week at a big corporation. And yeah, your company might not be that big, and that's the other reason. But yeah, the CFO title was really, I think, blew up in a way that the services didn't match the claims sometimes.
Yes. And I still, when I was offering those services, I hated the title fractional CFO, and I still hate it because a C-level employee in a company is a decision maker.
Yes.
And no fractional CFO should be making decisions for your business. Like they are not a part of that. And actually, as part of our professional liability insurance as CPAs, when they see you're offering CFO type services, they ask you whether you're a decision maker, because that completely changes the liability level in your business. So anybody that's actually selling those services is not really selling themselves as that management level employee. They're just selling their knowledge.
And that advisory piece. And not being able to make those decisions really kind of cuts us at the knees of like, these are the things we do, but like we can't go into your systems and make those changes. And we're not controlling like the movement of your cash and all of that. So with that, one, I'd say what we offer and what I really preferred from the beginning, if you take marketing aside, was just advisory, because that has such different levels of I'm here to show you what your profit and loss looks like, to this is what it means, to this is how, if it was me, I would make that decision, but also make sure you consider these two other things, and you're the CEO. So hands off, you make the call. And so I think that's the nice part about where we're at and who we serve. So let's kind of talk about what do you need at different stages. So, because at some point, maybe someone like that fractional CFO or a controller, like something higher level would make sense. Right. But you kind of have to get there, right?
Yes, absolutely. So if you're just starting out in business, you have less than 150,000 in revenue. Honestly, you might want a bookkeeper because you're confused about how the accounting works, but you're going to have to be a little bit strategic about that cost. I typically say that for monthly bookkeeping, we start serving clients somewhere around that 150,000 in revenue per year mark, because otherwise it's a very heavy cost on the business. And so I think if you're in those early stages, as with most parts of your business, you're having to just go and learn some things. So take a bookkeeping course, like get in contact with the CPA you like to work with, understand what you need to be doing, and do that bookkeeping yourself. And then you get to graduate to the point of hiring the bookkeeping so you don't have to manage that aspect of it. So that's the bookkeeping side. And then, tax support. You're always going to need tax support in your business from the day you launch that business. Hopefully, before you've launched that business, you've reached out, hopefully, so that you get the form right, like what business entity structure you should be, all of that fun stuff. You've reached out and you have a CPA on your side guiding you, filing those taxes, helping with tax planning, that sort of thing.
And that early level, like this is one of those things where like the jack of all trades, I think it's good to spend some time learning to do your own bookkeeping and what that means, what a profit and loss looks like. I mean, set up a consulting call with a CPA, like find some way, like however you learn best, but find a way to do it, because as you grow, it makes a lot more sense of like, hey, that's how I get to this point. That's what that cost. But we as accountants, I never want to be your top line expense. And so that's the other reason that holding off a little bit before you hire that bookkeeper, but that tax person to file that 1040, like the amount of deductions we see missed because you didn't hire someone, and that's okay. Like you can do conservative and you can pay those taxes and that's on you, but you're very likely leaving money on the table when you have a business and you're not hiring tax support in the initial days.
And I would say to make sure you are separating business and personal expenses when you're in that early stage. We'll see clients that are further along than that and still not doing that well, but you risk the business entity when you do that. And you also, if you're paying for business stuff through your personal and then you're not doing good bookkeeping, goes back to leaving those deductions on the table. So you want to make sure you've got those separated and the reporting is good. So however you can learn that in that early stage, it's really important to do that. And then maybe just have a consulting call to have someone look over and be like, yeah, it looks good. You're doing a good job.
I'd agree. So after that, we kind of grow into like 100, 150 to like $500,000 revenue businesses. Some might like kind of cap it at that 250, but I'd say for your bookkeeping needs, that range is pretty accurate. At that point, you are looking for a monthly tax support or not tax support, both tax and bookkeeping. But bookkeeping is what I meant to say, is you're looking for your monthly bookkeeping support of someone to come in and to do that bookkeeping for you, to keep it all nice and tidy, to reconcile your bank accounts because you have business bank accounts and a business credit card, and we've done all of those things. And someone who you can like shoot emails off to and be like, hey, thanks for the report. Quick question about this. So you can start that dialogue at this level, which is a huge plus to not picking up like an AI type software or like a QuickBooks Live bookkeeper, like an actual person who is there to be like, hey, that's what this means. And this is the important pieces of it. And these are the trends you have going on. I would highly recommend that. And I would also start really bringing in a tax person more regularly for no other reason than you need to be prepared for the tax bill. But at this level, there's actually stuff we can do to save money on taxes. And so having monthly support on your tax side too can be immensely beneficial in making sure that you're set up for all of the things.
And in this stage of business, this is where you're really starting to make that decision between a solo op and scaling, which we did an episode about just before this. So check out episode 7 if you want to kind of hear some of those pros and cons. But you need to be looking at your margins and really paying attention to your financials in this stage of business if you want to scale. Or if you want to stay solo and just make as much money as you possibly can within that range, you need to understand what margins look like for your industry, where could there be improvement. And sometimes, even for us as business owners, you can't see the forest for the trees. And so you need that second set of eyes on your books to be like, hey, like this isn't right. Like your employees aren't efficient or whatever it might be. And because you want to hit those goals in your business, and your financials kind of paint the picture of how that's going for you.
Without a doubt. And to help make those decisions. Can I afford to hire someone? And what does that affordability look like? And what's the true cost? Because it's not just the salary. And so all of those things. I think that discussion point at this place is so important. And I'd say at this level too, your time is just better spent in sales, in deliverables, in client emails. Like, it is not best spent doing your bookkeeping.
No.
You're at the point you can afford to outsource it, and you really should.
Yep, absolutely. So then after this stage, if you continue to grow beyond this, typically we see a solo op stay in that 100 to 500 range. And then beyond that, you're really starting to step into that scaling range of business. And this is where you might want to consider the fractional CFO add-on to your business. I'll give some air quotes on, if you're watching on YouTube, fractional CFO. You really need the advisory piece at this point. Margins were important in the growth stage and this, like the former stage of this, when you're in that 150 to 500 range, but now they're even more important if you're trying to scale, and there's a lot more we can layer in from a forecasting and a budgeting standpoint and making sure you're truly hitting those goals, especially if you want to scale and exit and you're trying to pump up the value of your company. You need a higher advisory piece.
And as the business becomes more complex too. So that's the other piece I'd caveat this with. Like, even if you're scaling, if your business is somehow like a super simple model, service-based 2 or 3 offerings, like maybe you actually never hit the point you need that fractional CFO, because it's just, there's not a whole lot of moving pieces. But if you're a product-based business with offshore supplies, you definitely need some additional support and someone who is helping to track all that. And at that point, you start looking for a fractional CFO who's like good in the industry you're in and has that knowledge that can help you not only analyze the stuff, but like even tell you what to look for. Like, hey, we need data about these things in order for us to even help. So that 500 to million plus, and you'll have CFOs who specialize, I get, in like startups. So if you're looking for funding, you've got the CFOs who will do that, the CFOs who specialize in getting you out of the business and exit strategy. And so really analyzing what you need. But for Seanna, it's CFOs. For me, it's tax strategy. So we'll have our like things that we're like, we don't love those terms. And it's just that it's very hard to have a C-suite on the outside. And I understand why we market it, because it's easier to associate CFO with like the level of work being done, but you're still the sole business owner making those decisions. And it could be like by the time you get to that 1 to 5 million, you're probably talking about bringing someone in-house and having them come in. And maybe it is a part-time in-house CFO. You might not have the need for a full-time one, but if you're really looking, I'd say, to get like the max out of a CFO or controller, both, you're really talking about bringing them in-house.
Yeah. And, that range, we can't sit here and tell you at this point in your business, you'll be at the point of having that in-house CFO, because, we work with a client who is a $40 million developer and their CFO is still part-time,
Yes.
And if I told you, beyond $10 million, you'll be at a point of having an in-house CFO. Well, I'd be wrong in that instance, but it depends on the industry, right? So we can't give some black and white line of when that will happen, but you know it for the complexity of your company. When you get there and you're just like, multiple times a day, I'm trying to go to a person and I need like these types of answers on financials, and there's no one there to give that information to me, to pull those reports, to get those metrics, then you probably need an in-house staff.
I think that depends on you as an owner too. Like, what are your natural inclinations and skill sets? Yeah. So if you naturally are inclined to enjoy the financial side, you may never need one.
Yeah.
If you're a creative to the point of like, I'm not even sure where to log into QuickBooks and I'm making multiple millions of dollars, maybe you want someone a little more in-house, and that's okay. And bookkeepers are not necessarily CFOs. They can sometimes do the same role. So it's just important to really analyze that piece and not get caught up in the marketing of it all. Yes. Into feeling like you need something just because someone else has it.
Yes, that is huge. And so let's dive into some red flags that you're not ready for a CFO. First of all, you don't have clean books. You're not even looking at your financials as it is. Like, let's get you some bookkeeping. Let's get you some education as a business owner. And I think this is a big thing, whether you're hiring a team member, you're hiring a contractor, you're hiring a vendor, whatever it is. As business owners, we do not get to abdicate the responsibility of anything, and definitely not looking at our financials. And so I do think some people get to that place where they're just like, well, I hired you because I want you to just tell me. It's like, you have to still care. I can't care for you because let's go back to I don't have that decision-making power within your company. So you still have to care. You still have to look at your damn reports. Once you have those, you got to look at them and you need to understand what they're saying. So if you don't get education first, learn that, and then it's really when you're needing more metrics, more conversation that you should be hiring CFO.
And I think also, if you're not scared enough of you just need this knowledge to run your business, you are the one responsible for that tax return. And so as bookkeepers and accountants for you, we will do our best to categorize things, but we will still have questions and be like, hey, what was going on here? Because we're, again, not the decision makers. We're not seeing the receipts necessarily every time, or we're not on that trip with you to know what piece was business and what was personal. So you have to be invested in it. And you have to also ask the questions. If you know you don't understand something, you should be hiring a team that is supportive and educational focused and not judgmental, because we don't know what you don't know and we will do our best. But if you really have questions, that's why, again, you're not hiring an AI to do this for you. You're hiring a person. And if you get outside of that person's skill set, that's when they'll be like, hey, maybe you need to go find some consulting with some other type of financial expert who can help you more and offer you better services. But finding those bookkeeping and tax people, that's really the bulk of the financial aspects for most companies of what they need.
Yes. And I will say that if you're in a place where you're like, well, I've already invested and I have a fractional CFO, first of all, if you're not fully utilizing their services, and this goes for any vendor or subscription or anything, if you're not fully using them and getting your full value, then you need to stop paying for that service. We've had clients that honestly, I hate as a person taking money from a client that's not using the service well. So I'm giving you the analysis and I know you're not watching the video. You're not opening the report. You're not doing anything with it. Why are you paying me for that analysis? Sure, it's great. It's revenue for me and I should be okay with it, but ethically I'm not. And so if you're not using that full value of what you're paying for, you need to cut the service down and you need to be honest with yourself about what you are trying to get out of your service with that provider. And maybe just, again, step back into put the financial pressure on you to understand some things. Don't just be like, well, I think I need this and they can just tell me how things are going. You are still the business owner. You've got to step back into that role.
Yeah. And it's okay if you have an advisory piece of your package to be like, I don't need that right now. And I know I've had clients who financially, it didn't make sense anymore to have the advisory piece. So we just said, hey, let's get you back to the compliance. We will just take care of that. And that's a great discussion to have if you're meeting monthly and you're like, okay, maybe quarterly. You need to get the most out of it for what you're paying. And there's probably bad accountants out there, but for the most part, we like to know that we're earning our keep and that we're actually making an impact. We don't want to get on a call with you and be like, hey, here's the same 10 things we talked about last month. So yeah, there's so many ways. And the CFO really is for those CFO level decisions. And I think that's complexity and revenue based of your business. And it's okay to not be there. Call your CPA, I guess, whatever they want, or whatever you want to call them. But for the most part, you're really looking for bookkeeping with a little bit of education and advising of hey, your profits went down compared to this time last year. You might want to check into some of your expenses. These are the trigger points. So it doesn't have to be complicated to be beneficial and make a difference in your business.
Yes, 100%. We hope that this has been helpful in making that decision. If you're on the edge of thinking you need a fractional CFO or you have one and you're not sure you're getting your value, hopefully this gives you a better idea of what support you really need at these different stages of your business. And if you've been having these conversations with fellow business owners and they're not really sure, but they keep hearing accountants throw around this fractional CFO term, send them this episode. We want everyone to just have the financial knowledge they need to run businesses that result in more cash brought home to their family and a better lifestyle. And so that's why we're sharing this knowledge. If you like it, please subscribe. And if you need some help with your bookkeeping, your tax planning, your tax strategy, all of our contact information is in the show notes. And we can't wait to chat with you in the next episode.